Music buffs.
Hey, turn the volume up, yeah? Make Me a Mixtape is here. I'm Jordan Stevens.
I'm Clara Amfo, and this is our brand new weekly music show.
You pick a theme.
We select the tunes.
And we battle it out to create the ultimate playlist just for you.
May the best music lover win.
Oh, it's about to go down. Let's go!
Make Me a Mixtape.
Listen only on BBC Sounds.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Hello, I'm Amy Canavan and this is the Scottish Football Podcast, delivering all the news, views and analysis you need on a daily basis. It's Tuesday the 6th of August and here's what's coming up.
In comes the corner for Aberdeen, the header from Devlin's in, and this time Aberdeen do take the lead. It's been coming these last few minutes, and the huge away support here in red and white bursts to life.
After another Aberdeen win, what has changed under Jimmy Thelin? Also,
playing in Europe is always exciting, but of course everybody wants to go to Champions League because it makes a big difference financially and you only have top games there.
Can Rangers get a much needed Champions League win as they take on Dynamo Kyiv in Lublin? And
it's 4-3 to Newcastle and Harvey Barnes has scored an absolute screamer.
Could we see Harvey Barnes in a Scotland shirt sometime soon?
The Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Sports Scotland.
International chat already. We've just completed match day 1 and here to discuss the final fixture of the opening weekend, Ryan Cryle, Press and Journal and Evening Express joint sports editor, and Cammy Bell, former Kilmarnock and Rangers goalkeeper. Good morning to you guys. A late one last night, was it, Ryan?
Yeah, fortunately I was on our sports desk rather than at the game, so I got the privilege of watching it on TV, so I got to my bed a little bit earlier than I would have otherwise.
You may both, son. You may both. I was also on the desk last night. Cammy, did you get an early night last night or did you stick about for the football as well?
No, I was watching the football as well, Amy. It was an entertaining game, which there was a number of entertaining games over the weekend. So, yeah, good advert for Scottish football. Hopefully
a sign of things to come. There's plenty to discuss with Ryan and Cammy. But before all of that, let's quickly run through the latest Scottish football headlines. Jimmy Thelin's first league match in charge of Aberdeen ended in victory for the Dons as they beat St Johnstone 2-1 in Perth. Rangers are in Poland for the first leg of their Champions League qualifier against Dynamo Kyiv, and should they get through, they'll face Salzburg or Twente in the playoff round. In the Europa League playoff, Hearts will take on Ukrainian side Kryvbas Kryvira or Victoria Pilsen, while Kilmarnock and St Mirren also learn their potential next Conference League opponents if they overcome Tromsø and Brann respectively. And Newcastle winger Harvey Barnes has revealed the door is still open for him to switch allegiances to Scotland. We'll get on to last night's action in a moment, but reaction to the European draw, Cammy, we'll start with yourself. If St Mirren beat Brann, they'll face Corvinal or Astana, while your old club Kilmarnock will play Copenhagen or Banek Ostrava if they get past Tromsø. What are your thoughts on the draw?
Yeah, listen, any team you're going to face in the next round, Amy, if you manage to get through these tough ties that both St Mirren and Kilmarnock have, are always going to be difficult ties. So it's exciting times. Listen, Scottish football, St Mirren have started really well. We've seen Scottish clubs fall at the first hurdle and be really criticised, so we've got to be positive about the way they've tackled this. They've got a big game against Brann on Thursday, and obviously Kilmarnock have got their game as well. So, yeah, exciting times for the clubs. The fans will all be buzzing for it and hoping they can progress.
When it's a round away, do the players, the management staff, do they pay much attention to the draw? Can you take your eyes off it? I know if you ask any of them, they say, it's the next game first, get through this round. But it must be, especially in a Kilmarnock or a St Mirren position where their names aren't in the draw every single year, it must be right tricky to not pay attention to it.
Yeah, to be honest, Amy, I don't think they will pay too much attention to the one that's too far away from them. They need to get through this tie. They've got 2 games against the club they're facing on Thursday. I think the analysis guys in the background will be working away with the manager, feeding him a lot of information in case they do get through, so he's well prepared. But the players will be looking. They'll be looking at the game on Thursday night, and they've also got a league game at the weekend as well. So there's so much football ahead of them that they'll just be concentrating on the games that they know they've got.
You're right, there is so much football ahead of them. There's so much football to look back on as well. So we'll come back to those ties if and when we need to. But let's get to last night's action.
McGrath on the left boot, scores! McGrath scores and Aberdeen celebrate! McGrath onto his knees in front of the Dons fans in the North Stand. That after St Johnstone have been the better side since the break. But just like that, bang, it's 2-0.
Ryan, as you mentioned at the top of the show there, you were watching the game last night, not at McDermott Park, but what did you make of the nervy win in the end, but a deserved one, no doubt, for Aberdeen?
No, I think it was a great start for Jimmy Thelin in his first Premiership game. Obviously, he'd had the 4 competitive matches in the Premier Sports Cup group stage, but that's 5 from 5 now. I think within the game itself, after a bit of a slow start, which has maybe been a little bit of a pattern so far over the last few games, just 10 minutes or so to find their feet, where St Johnstone had quite a lot of the ball and were getting forward. I think you start to see the way Jimmy Thelin wants Aberdeen to play, committing bodies forward in big numbers, nice attacking combinations, players running, making angles. And they had a good few chances in that first half. I think they could have been out of sight by half-time last night. I think fans will have been excited by what they've seen in that opening period. As you say, Amy, they then concede a goal that I did think in the second half came a little bit out of nowhere with the way things had been going. And naturally, when you have that combined with 9 minutes of added time that I don't think I was necessarily expecting, that does, I think, as Jamie McGrath possibly said after the game, it does sort of set the scene for that nervy finish. But I mean, they got over the line, got their 3 points, and that's the most important thing.
We sure did, and you're right to mention there, that's 5 wins to start off the Jimmy Thelin era. He's the first Aberdeen manager to win his first 5 games in charge. Cammy, what have you been impressed about since he came in? I think Brian makes a really good point there, actually, that the Aberdeen fans have certainly been pointing out that yes, they have been winning games, but it has been a bit of a slow start. You certainly saw that in the last 3 League Cup games. It was a little bit last night. St Johnstone could have went ahead, but no matter what, he seems to be getting the job done early doors. What is it that you've been impressed by?
Yeah, as Ryan said, probably a style of play. I think you can see a real identity about Aberdeen now in the way it's going to take him time to get there in exactly the way he wants to play. But probably one of the biggest things is winning games of football. Aberdeen for last season, they were in real turmoil as a club and nowhere near where their fans expect them to be. So just winning games of football, getting that confidence, that feel-good factor around the club, he's generating that back. And that's probably the biggest thing that's impressed me so far. An away win to St Johnstone's never easy, especially in the first game of the season. So yeah, he's got to take full credit for that.
Another positive last night, certainly for Aberdeen, or perhaps they were hoping that he would maybe perform a little bit quieter and not catch so many headlines. Ryan, would have been Bojan Miovski's first start under Jimmy Thelin. He never got on the score sheet, but he easily could have. Aberdeen fans must just be praying to God that the transfer window slams shut as soon as possible and he's still in a red shirt.
Well, you say that, it's quite interesting. So first and foremost, we have a Press and Journal fan view writer named Chris Crichton, and he wrote in his piece for today that if Miovski hadn't clipped the bar, or he clipped the underside of the bar rather than the top of the bar with that sort of stunning 25-yard effort that he had that kind of came out of nowhere, you thought he was maybe going to pass the ball in the left channel. He probably would have hastened his exit, but at the same time, he might have added another $1 million onto his value. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, and that's how the whole Miovski thing's playing out, I think, for Aberdeen fans. I think it's only natural to think that Aberdeen fans probably en masse all want Miovski to stay at the club. But from fans I've been speaking to, I think there is a bit of an understanding that Aberdeen have this player trading model and it's reliant on getting these young, talented players, many of them from overseas, in and then selling them on for profit after they've contributed to the first team. Now, Bojan Miovski came in for £535,000 from MTK Budapest just 2 years ago. And, you know, you're talking about Aberdeen. I think potentially they could get more, but talking about Aberdeen getting £6.5-7 million from, which is a huge profit. Don't see a lot of Scottish clubs outside Celtic and Rangers taking in fees like that. And I think Dons fans maybe see if that fee comes in, that's how the club gets stronger. Getting that sort of money in the door, it allows them, to maybe bring in 3 decent additions, 4 decent additions to help Jimmy Thelin's rebuild. So yeah, but again, it would be great to have both worlds. It would be great to have a striker like Bojan Miovski hanging around, scoring another 26 goals this season, but also get that money. But that's not how the world works, unfortunately.
It sure isn't. Opposition teams and opposition defences in particular certainly wouldn't mind seeing the back of Bojan Miovski. Cammy, last night St Johnstone's back line certainly no different. He certainly in that first half, when Aberdeen sort of grew into it, he terrorised them. St Johnstone did move to that 3 in the second half, and I think that was notable, wasn't it? What were your views on what Craig Levein called a pretty positive performance? I think James McFadden certainly didn't quite agree with him, but he seemed pretty content with the show and saying that his side have now set the bar, that's where they must be. What was your take on St Johnstone's performance?
Yeah, listen, there was patches in the game they did okay. I wouldn't say it was an inspiring performance from my point of view. But again, it was probably where I expect St Johnstone to be at this moment in time. I kind of have tipped them to probably towards the bottom of the table. They've just survived over the last few years. I don't see really any indication from the signings that have came in so far that it's going to be any different this season. And probably Craig Levein knows that. He's in a dogfight from day one. So listen, they were competitive against Aberdeen. They didn't let Aberdeen blow them away. I think if Aberdeen were a little bit more ruthless, it could have been a completely different score and they could have been out of sight, as Ryan said. But yeah, they hung in there. They showed a little bit of fighting spirit. So listen, Craig's got to hang on to any positives of a defeat from Aberdeen at home last night.
It was obviously about the football, but pretty much it wasn't really. And if the night sort of was owed to anyone, it was to Jeff Brown, who was honoured at McDiarmid Park pre-match last night, his official handing over, so to speak, after selling the club to American businessman Adam Webb. Cammy, I know you had a short spell up in Perth. What are your memories of Jeff Brown?
Yeah, listen, what a fantastic character. And yeah, he's been so loyal to St Johnstone for so long. He gave his whole life to St Johnstone. So it was nice to see the fans and everyone giving him a real good send-off, and obviously the handover to the new American owner. So yeah, he's been a massive part of the club. So it's a new period for them. It'll be interesting to see how the new owner wants to take the club on and take the club forward as well. So yeah, it's all change up in Perth, and it'll be interesting how we go forward with it.
If the Adam Webb era ensures that St Johnstone Aberdeen games, Ryan, are as exciting as that and not what they usually are, then it's off to a good start, isn't it?
No, yeah, I think that's kind of the cliche around St Johnstone Aberdeen, especially the McDiarmid Park ones. Is that it's, you're getting a 1-0 or you're getting a 0-0 or you're getting a 1-1, just a very drab fixture. But yeah, I did think, I put this in one of our sports desk WhatsApp chat last night, that both teams I felt looked completely different. It wasn't just Aberdeen. You could see St Johnstone getting forward as well in that opening spell, as I said. Plenty to like about that, as long as, I suppose, for Dons fans, Aberdeen come out on the right side of it.
Well, match day 1 of the Scottish Premiership in the can, 37 to go. As we were discussing earlier, it's a big night for Rangers this evening as they take on Dynamo Kyiv in Lublin. Cammy, what are the expectations going into this one, especially on the back of Rangers' 0-0 draw with Hearts at Tynecastle on Saturday?
Listen, Amy, the expectations are always high with Rangers fans. You need to live up to that. You need to win games of football, and this is no different. It's going to be a really tough tie, especially, obviously, over in Poland. It's going to be, they're a very good team. They're a team that's been together for a bit of time. They've got loads of Ukrainian internationalists in that team, so they know each other really well. We've seen from the last round of them scoring a lot of goals, 9-2 over the 2 legs against Partizan Belgrade. So it's going to be a difficult night for Rangers, but one they need to navigate their way through it. I think taking a draw back to Scotland would be a very positive result. It was disappointing. It was flat at the weekend against Hearts. I wasn't very impressed by Rangers' performance. I just felt as if it lacked the spark that I'm looking for, and especially on match day one, you're looking for the team to come out the traps. They didn't do that. They dropped points, so there'll be a disappointment there. But as I said, you've got to react to that. If you're a Rangers player, you've got to come back and win a game of football. So I don't think they need to win tonight, but I think they don't want to come back trailing the Ukrainian side and having to chase the game in Hampden when they come back next week.
Cammy speaks of the players needing a reaction, Ryan. How do you think Philippe Clement will react? There was 10 players that started on Saturday that were still there at the tail end of last season. Do you think we'll see Robin Proper come in? Do you think he'll change anything up too much? Dujan Sterling's back in training. How do you see Rangers setting up tonight?
Robin Proper is an interesting one, actually. I had a conversation about Robin Proper earlier in the summer because former Aberdeen winger Jeffrey de Vischer is first team coach at FC20, and he was singing his praises. So I'm interested to see how he does. He's obviously got decent pedigree. They're a team that were also in Champions League, or also got themselves in the Champions League qualifying for this season. So yeah, maybe that's a change there. In terms of Dujan Sterling, I don't really know, to be honest, what I'll go for. I did think Rangers, maybe in the second half against Hearts, from what I watched, perhaps slightly better. But as Cammy said, the way the game started at Tynecastle, I kind of felt like, Hearts were the team that came out with the impetus and had certainly the sort of the best early chances. So maybe there's a change there. Obviously, getting into the Champions League, as Philippe Clement himself said yesterday, brings with it, a £40 million boost. One of those things is, even the fans of the clubs that are trying to get into the Europa League and Conference League as well know, although it's slightly less money, that can be huge in terms of changing your transfer plans and strengthening. And I think possibly, that's what Rangers are waiting to see. Are they going to get that big cash boost in that allows them to, go a couple of tiers up on their transfer wish list, which, could change things in terms of the trajectory of their season entirely.
Ryan, spot on, Cammy. Clement did come out and mention that it could make a world of difference to the finances and the competing in the transfer market, no doubt attracting players, obviously, if you have that Champions League carrot. But he also said it wouldn't be a disgrace if they did drop into the Europa League. How do you think that comment would perhaps go down among the Rangers fans?
Yeah, listen, I think he's almost just covering himself a little bit, knowing that this tie is such a tricky tie. But again, you've got to just be honest, come out there and say, look, this is such a difficult tie, but we want to progress, we want to be in the Champions League, because that's where Rangers need to be. See, to close the gap, Amy, between where Celtic are and Rangers are within the squads at the moment. I think Celtic are further ahead with the strength and depth they've got in their squad, but that's dictated by finances. Rangers can't bring in the quality players because they don't have the money. This Champions League run could make that gap shorten for me if they can bring in that, as Ryan said, that 40 million, 8 games in the news format that the Champions League provides. So it's massive for me. It's a huge game in the season of Rangers Football Club, and also for the manager as well, because you don't want any more negativity festering around the club at the moment, because there's been so much pre-season with the stadium, with players wanting to leave, some players not yet left, not as many players as the fans wanted coming in. It's been really negative start for Rangers.
Finally, then, just quickly, Harvey Barnes hasn't ruled out switching to Scotland if he fails to add to his solitary England cap in the upcoming World Cup qualifiers. It's unsurprisingly garnered a lot of interest because he himself has not really spoke about it before. Ryan, can you see him making the switch? Are we reading too much into it? Do you want him to make the switch?
So there's two aspects to this for me. So reading those quotes from Harvey Barnes, now I know there's probably an element with him, he's thinking, I could still get called up for England, so you don't want to commit yourself too much in your quotes to, I want to play for Scotland. But at the same time, that lack of, I really want to play for Scotland, call me up, Steve Clarke, is a little bit of a turn off for me. It feels like, in those American sitcoms when there's a man and a woman, it's like, if we get to 30 and we're not married, we can get married to each other because we haven't found anyone else. It's a little bit like that. But at the same time, Harvey Barnes has got, I wrote this down, 40 Premier League goals. And if we've seen anything from Scotland over the last few years, it's up front. We need more goals in the team. We need players that are capable of scoring regularly. We went into the Euros in the summer, and the sort of big overarching concern you had going into those group games was, where are the goals coming from in this campaign if we're going to, get out of the group at the knockout stages, which we obviously didn't do. So, yeah, there's two sides to it for me. I'm not quite sure, because you want players to be like, desperate to pull on the international shirt and represent their country.
Listen, any £40 million player, bring them to Scotland, get them in the squad. I just think he would bring so much to the Scotland squad, something we've not got. As Ryan says, he's a goal scorer, a huge amount of assists as well, at the top level of football. So, yeah, listen, bring me a £40 million player and put him in the Scotland squad, no problem.
Well, Cammy Bell, you can be the man who goes down on behalf of Steve Clarke and pulls Harvey Barnes up to Scotland. That's all we've got time for. My many thanks go to Cammy and Ryan. And thank you for listening. Remember, you can hear full live commentary of Dynamo Kyiv v Rangers on Sports Sounds on BBC Radio Scotland Extra from 6 o'clock tonight. And of course, we'll be here with new episodes of the Scottish Football Podcast bright and early every weekday morning. So to make sure you don't miss out, just follow or subscribe wherever you listen. For now, take care and bye-bye.
Just a quick reminder, the Behind the Goals podcast is available every Tuesday with me, Rachel Corsey, and me, Leanne Crichton. It's your one-stop shop for our take on everything that's happening in the world of football. Just head to BBC Sounds or wherever you get your podcasts and search for Behind the Goals.